Okay, I'm back. I'm going to try a little more on the SIE exam and Series 7 exam prep. So this one now is going to be the Act of 1933. So I'm going to try to do a series on the federal acts, 33, 34, 39, 40, try to get all the way through them. I won't do them all in one video. I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet so you can just search for 33, 34, whatever it is, and get a little refresher. So the Securities Act of 1933 was created because of the crash, and they blame Wall Street like they always do. So the Act of 33 started regulating the way issuers registered their shares. That's what it was for. It was to help issuers register their shares and make sure they were regulated under the SEC and the various states, which is Blue Sky laws. So really think of the 33 Act as like just a formula on how to register your shares. So what happens is you say I want to go public. I decide I'm going to authorize the number of shares, but I want to issue a certain number. I'm going to register them with the SEC, which is an S1 or a registration statement. So I file the registration statement with the SEC with my financials, and the prospectus is in there. Okay, now, which is all my disclosures. So now, after I file the S1 with the SEC, that starts a 20-day shut-up period. So basically, for the next 20 days, I can't talk about the company. If I'm selling products, I can talk about my products. I can't talk about the issue. It's a big deal. I cannot talk about the issue, okay? So the whole thing here is that I have to stay quiet. It's a cooling off. It's the 20 days that the SEC reviews it. So during those 20 days, they are going over the documents and everything. They're not verifying anything. They're just kind of making sure that I disclosed everything I was supposed to. So if I say I do this and this and this, I better talk about it, and I better disclose it and have some sort of backup. They're not verifying. They're not approving. They're not saying this is good. They're not saying it's safe. They're just looking to make sure I filled everything out. Okay. Once I file the S1 or the registration statement, then I wait, blah, blah, blah. But what can I do? I can do things. So the first thing I can do is send out a red herring, which is the slang for a preliminary prospectus. The prospectus is the disclosure document. You should know that by now. It's basically just saying what we do, what we don't do, what our conflicts. But the preliminary is like, it's not the final. So what happens is it has no date and no price, because it can't. It may have a range on it, but it can't have a final date or a final price, because that would be assuming that the SEC declared you effective. So that's the beginning of that. So now you file it. You file it, then you can do the preliminary. Send that out to anyone you think it's suitable for. So you say, oh, you know what? I think Johnny Jones would be good at getting this. Johnny Jones again. I think Johnny Jones would be good to buy this new IPO. So I send him the preliminary, and then we have a conversation, and he gives me what he calls an indication of interest. It's not binding. We don't have to do it. It's not binding. See, I'm stuttering because I don't have a script. So it's not binding on either one of us. He just says, I'll buy some shares. Maybe I'll buy 5,000. And when we finally allocate, we decide what he's going to get, or shit. So preliminary prospectus, we get indications of interest. Then we can register it in the various states if needed. If it's on the exchange, we probably don't. But if it isn't, we do. So we register in the various states. So it's called Blue Sky. That's your next exam after you pass the SIE and the top off. And then we do a due diligence meeting where the accountants, the lawyers, and all the underwriters get in a meeting, and they go over everything to make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, or vice versa, whatever you want to say. So we'll do that right before the effective date. And now, on the 20th day, the SEC goes, okay, you're effective. They do not approve. They don't say we're good. They just say we're effective. So effective means that we can legally sell it. Now, one more thing. During this 20-day cooling off period, we can't talk about it, whatever, but we can put out what they call a tombstone. A tombstone is a little one-pager, if even, that just gives basic details, and it says, if you're interested, call. You can do that during the 20 days and even after. You can do that during the 20 days and even after. Now, back to this. Now we're effective. We can sell it. We start sending out the preliminary prospectus. We must send that to them. If somebody agrees to buy the shares, we have to have that prospectus in their hands no later than the completion of the trade, which is crazy talk for saying settlement. So pretty much T+2, they have to have it in their hands. You can email it to them. You can mail it to them. You can hand it to them. If you hand it to them, you better get a receipt. You can even send them a link to the website, Because if you give them access to the prospectus, it's considered delivery. Access equals delivery. That's what they say. So now, you send the prospectus. Here's my question for you. For how many days after the effective date do you still have to send customers a prospectus? Is it like if you buy shares 20 years after the effective date, do you get a prospectus? No. It is, if it's an over-the-counter, non-exchange listed security, it is the first 90 days after the effective date for an IPO. If it is on an exchange, it's only the first 25 days. So after the effective date, anyone who buys in the first 90 gets a prospectus for over-the-counter. The exception is if it's on an exchange, the next 25 days, you have to get a prospectus. You don't get it in 25 days, but if you buy it during that 25-day period. Now, if you do a follow-on or an additional, which means, I raise shares, and then a year later or 2 years later, I want to issue more securities, that's an additional offering. Then the rule's a little less because it's out there in trading already. So if it's over-the-counter, that's only 40 days. Again, APO follow-on or secondary, it's only 40 days from the effective date. Over-the-counter, if it's on an exchange, none, we don't care. Because look, if it's on the exchange, there's so many people, right? There's so many people going on there and reviewing it and researching it, and there's people covering it, so it doesn't need the same disclosure. Now, there are exceptions to the Active 33, which I'll get to on probably the next video. I'll do 33, exceptions, and 34. So let me get a wrap up. 33 is about issuing shares, and it's basically going to be the process that you do to issue the shares. That's what we're doing. It's the issue. The 33 is about the process. Cooling off period. What are keywords? If you see Active 33, investment banking, IPO, syndicate process, all stabilizing bid, which we didn't talk about yet, but we will. Those are all things that mean that basically the primary market and the Active 33. Please, if you like what I'm doing, tell people, share, join my live on Tuesday nights. I want more people bugging me. And please subscribe and hit the notifications, and I think we're good to go. Have a great day.